Hello everybody, today me and Beamer are going to show you how to make and animate a bird. So first of all, you want to make the bird. So Beamer here will show you how to make the bird.
Yeah, I got you. So basically, you're going to want to pull out your maker pen, and you can do that by going into your watch menu, push backpack, and you can push use to spawn it in, or you can push favorite and you can just bring it out from your back. So to get started, we're gonna just make a simple bird. I want you to get a sphere, and you can really use any material, but I'm just gonna use painted wall since it's a pretty clean material. They won't really be able to see it anyway since it's flying. But you can pick a color. I'm gonna pick a bluish color, like a blue bird. And so once you have that, select sphere, and we're gonna begin by making the head of it. Now I have uniform shapes on, which basically makes it so that the shape is even no matter what you do. So like sphere, square, it's even, or even if you do tube, does a straight tube. But basically you can turn this on by going to your settings, and then on the first page right here, uniform shapes. That's what's gonna do it. See, if I turn it off, then it just kind of goes wonky. So once you have your head, I'm gonna make this a little smaller by using scale on our maker pen. You can just click it and scale it down using the middle. Might want to even go off snap, which basically makes it more smooth when you're scaling. So that seems about good. I'll have it right there. And so now we're gonna want to make the eyes. So for the eyes, you're gonna want to go use a black color. Should be on the very last page. And just make it pretty small, like this. And if you want to adjust the size, you can always just go ahead and push scale and scale it the way you want. Just like that. I'm gonna put it on the side. Oh yeah, and then you can use move on your maker pen to just go ahead and move it. If it's gonna let me move it. Here we go. Or you could just move the head if you want. That seems about good. Alright, and so then once you have that, you can just go ahead and clone the eye over instead of having to make a totally new eye. And you can do that by pushing clone on your maker pen, select the little eye, and you can use the arrow to just clone it right over. Just like that. If you want, you can always adjust the head by using, if you go to your maker pen, you can push manipulate. It should be in pink right there. You can manipulate the head. I'll just make it a little bit more wide and flat on the bottom. Something like that. Here, there we go. Alright, now we're gonna move on to the beak. So for the beak, we're gonna use a pyramid. And so, let me turn snap back on. Go ahead and go use a yellow shade. It should be on the first page. And you can just go ahead, make a pyramid using your shapes. And then I'm gonna go off grid for this part. Can move it on to the beak using your move tool. Or onto the front of the bird, sorry. Move it down, just like this. And then of course, you can always use manipulate if you want to manipulate the beak. Can make it smaller, make it wider, not like that. That seems good. So once you have that, we're gonna move on to the body of the bird. So I want you to use your sphere again. I'm gonna turn back grid. I'm gonna use a darker shade of blue, just a little darker shade. And then I'm gonna start by making the body. I'll start with this. You can manipulate it later. And then I'm gonna move it so it's connected to the bird. You might want to go off snap just so it's a little smoother. And then I'm just gonna go ahead, manipulate it. Make it a little thicker. Boom, like that. That's about good. Alright, cool. So, once you have that, we're gonna start by making the wings of it. So what I want you to do is you can choose a different shade. I'm probably gonna go with maybe even darker blue. That seems good. So I'm just gonna start by making a sphere because we can manipulate it and such. And so, once you have your sphere, push manipulate on your maker pen, and push manipulate on the sphere. And then I'm going to turn snapping off. And then you can kind of make it really thin, just like an actual bird's wings. Yeah, that seems about good. I'll show it like that. And so, once you have that, use rotate on your maker pen and push on the wing that you got here. And do it like about 45 degrees, just like that. And then you can move it. Oh yeah, another thing to note is when you're moving it, this little button right here, if you have it on, it's gonna go off the world grid. So it'll go like this way, up, or even this way. But if you see, when you take it off, it's gonna go whichever way the object is facing. So since it's diagonal, when you take it off and move it, it'll go like that way. Just something to note. So I'm going to turn the world grid back on and just kind of connect it in there with the bird, move it up a little, just like that. And then I can clone it a couple times, shed more detail, more wings. That seems good. Oh, accidentally moved it. You can just push undo if you accidentally do that. And so you can just make some final adjustments, just like that. That's good. So, once you got that, then make sure you have all the wings selected. If you don't, you can push edit on your maker pen, edit the object, and then you can push select and select each individual feather, like that. And so then once you've done that, you can push clone on your maker pen, just like that. You'll see all the arrows pop up. Instead of pushing this arrow with the plus in it, I want you to use the arrow next to it that is like the triangle and another triangle. Basically, it's going to mirror it the opposite direction. So if you push and hold it, you'll see it clones it in the opposite direction. So I'm going to use it just like that. And then finally, we're going to make the little back wings. You can just push edit on your maker pen, push the bird, and then push select. You can just select really any one of these feathers. I'm going to clone it over and maybe even rotate it back using our rotate tool, back to how it originally was, just like that. So once you have that, you're going to want to scale it down a little just because it's not quite as big as the feathers on, or the wings. So let me just scale it a little bit more, just like that. Okay, now I'm going to rotate it. And kind of make it go down a little. And then you can put it back on world grid to change it. And put it on the back of the bird. And then you can use the mirror clone we went over a second ago. And clone it just like that. And then you can select them and just move them to any way you want. Just like that. That's good. And also, since we're going to be animating the wings pretty much, I want you to push edit on your maker pen, edit the object, and then select each wing like this. And once you select it, you'll see the options menu pop up once you've selected all your shapes. Push options and then push split shapes. Basically, if you merge the wings to the bird, it's just going to unmerge it so that the wings are just by itself pretty much. And then you're going to want to do the exact same thing on the other side. Push edit, then push select, select each feather, options, split shapes. Now when you push select, you'll see that the green highlight is going over the wings instead of the bird itself. And that's pretty much the bird section of making the thing.
Alright, so now for the animating section. Animating is a bit more complicated and not for simpler people. If you just want like a bird model to set somewhere in your room, then you can just make this easily. Just place wherever you want for aesthetic, whatever, or maybe just to show your friends. But first of all, you want to look at your maker pen, open palette, go to gadgets. It should normally be on shapes. Go to gadgets, gizmos, animation gizmo, and spawn in one of these. After that, you want to select a wire on your maker pen, and you want to wire both wings to that little nib at the top, and then you want to wire the body of the bird up to there. After that, you want to press edit on this animation gizmo. Now if you look at your maker pen, you see a bunch of special options. So I'm just going to go over these options real fast. So play will just play whatever frames you have currently set down. Select move and rotate you already learned about. For copy and paste, it'll copy some things like position in a frame and then paste it somewhere else with those two buttons. Add will add a frame, as you can see, frame time turned to 1, or it'll remove a frame. Now you can use this to set a specific frame time. So like, let's say I want this frame to be 10 seconds. This frame can be 10 seconds. But I don't usually recommend that because it's usually just easier to use normal frames. For these, the in and the out stand for leading in completely still speed. If it's on ease, it'll be slower on the in. If it's on ease fast, it'll be faster, but still it'll still speed up as it gets to the middle of the animation. And then for the out, if you turn that to ease, it does the same thing as in, but instead it becomes slower as it goes out. Ease fast, it becomes slower, but it's much faster than ease going out. And then for this button, it is the smooth movement. So if you move something in a frame, let me demonstrate. In the second frame, I'll move this up. As you can see, this is just a completely straight linear line. If I turn on this on both frames, let me just add a third frame. As you can see, if I go through the frames, it goes smoothly across that point instead of going like that, like more linear and jagged. As you can see, it's less jagged. I'm just going to remove these two frames since that's not actually a part of animating it. But that's basically what all these do. If you're making a flapping animation, I don't recommend having the smooth on because it'll mess up with the way the wings flap. But what I usually do for my animations is on the first frame I have it on ease, and for the last frame I have it on ease. But since we're not at the last frame, I'm not gonna deal with that right now. So for this first frame, I'm just gonna select everything here and rotate it around, which I have grid snapping enabled. So if I go into my settings, I have my rotation snap set to 45 rather than 5 where it would normally be. And I have my position snap on 0.5 if you want to copy that. So now after the bird is turned this way, you want to add a frame, and I'm just going to deselect these so I don't move everything. Which, actually, yeah, I suppose you can select everything. So you want to select everything and move it up, which if you press this little red square on the move tool, it'll move it on only this direction. So you can move the bird upwards and deselect, and then you can, I'm going to turn off my snapping for this, but you can rotate the wing like this. Your pivot might be weird on your wings, so if it is, just use this blue square to move it back into position. After that, you want to select the other wing. As you can see, it has the same kind of pivot. Don't worry about the pivot, just move it back into place. And now you have the bird's wings being up a bit, which I need to rotate that to be completely right. Yeah, it's about right. Which if you want, you can turn on grid snapping and turn it to like 45 degrees. I don't recommend that. I recommend something more along the lines of 15 for your grid snap, which is what I'm gonna do personally right now. Yeah, their pivots are weird. I'm just gonna turn off grid snapping for now. But as you can see, the bird has its wings up, as if it was like flapping. So if you see, if I go to the first frame and I press play, the bird eases to there, because as you can see, it at the beginning of this frame is ease. That's why it looks weird. That's odd. Why is the wing doing that? Huh, it's probably bug with ease. Yeah. Seems to just be... So, if you have a bug like that, then just turn on ease to the beginning of the second frame. But after that, you can add a third frame. You can select everything, which if you hold down your select tool, it'll select with this little ball. You can change how big the ball size is in second page of your Maker Pen palette settings. As you can see here, drag select size. I have mine on medium because that's just a pretty nice area. But you can have like precise on, like if I turn on precise, it becomes very small. Like you can barely see it. Small, you can slightly see it, like right there. But medium is just my preferred setting. Because it doesn't select too much, doesn't select too little. And as you can see, this second frame is the same as the first frame. So what you want to do is you want to select everything. And then you want to use this red square again, or blue depending on whichever one it's on. And as you can see, it's keeping a pretty consistent angle. You want to keep that going throughout the entire thing. Now you might have the same bug with the wing on this one. No, because the wing doesn't actually rotate yet. So you want to select one of the wings with rotate, and you want to rotate it back down. I'm just going to rotate them both down before fixing their position. Give me 1 second. Move, and I'm going to move this up there. I'm going to move this wing manually up there. Now if I look at the back, wings are a bit off. It shouldn't matter too much if this is just flying like high above your map. But if I do this, you might have the bug with the wing on linear. Nope. As you can see, it works pretty well. Yep, there you go. See how it kind of flaps and moves? After that, I'm just going to add a final third frame, because I don't want to make this too long. And I'm going to move this up at a rather consistent angle and distance. As you can see, the angle stays pretty consistent with slight curve, but that shouldn't be an issue. So now, if I deselect and I rotate, I'm gonna rotate these first before fixing their positions. So I'm gonna move that down there. I'm gonna move that down to there. As you can see, the angles are pretty similar. So now if I turn on ease here, and I do this, as you can see, the bird kind of flaps along, which it does reset. So there's ways to fix that, which you can just make it like go around an entire map. Or you can just have it like fly out of the map where it can't be seen. Then it'll just reset to where it'll look good. But like if you look here, if I turn on smooth, this may break it a bit. Yeah, as you can see, it makes it try and look smooth. But it doesn't really do that in the way we want it to. So you just want to keep linear on for now, and have smooth movement off, and the bird will move like that. So if you want to change the speed, I don't recommend changing this time right here. I recommend configuring this animation gizmo and turning the speed percentage up to, here, let me grab out a variable chip, which is what you'll probably prefer for this. And I place it right here, which I'm going to turn my grid back on. I place it right here. I configure this, and I turn the red signal to 1, which the configure is just the middle button right here. So now, if I wire this into here, the animation will play. If you want it to go fast, like let's say I want it to go 5 times as fast, I'll turn it to 500. As you can see, it goes really fast. I doubt you'd want that in your map, but maybe something like 200, or it does teleport back. So if you don't want it to teleport back and you want it to wait at a certain spot for like a bit, what you can do is, let me just set this to stop. Alright, so now if I edit this animation gizmo and I add a final frame, what I can do is I can turn this frame time to 14. The reason I did that is because it was frame 4, so this should be 11 seconds before it starts up again. So if I play this, you can see the little bar goes slowly, but that's because of the frame time. But as you can see, it just ticks up before before it starts up again. Which depending on whatever your speed percentage is set in here, it'll change depending. And ping pong mode, if I turn this on, I'm just going to remove this final frame so it's easier to showcase. If I edit this again and I press play, this is what ping pong does. It just bounces between the two. Which, if you're making a bird animation, I don't recommend this, because it'll just look weird in your map. But if I turn this to 1, and I wire this to that, and let me add a final frame, that's frame time 14. Now, it'll stop there, so let's say it like flew over that wall. I could have it like go down, and you wouldn't be able to see it, and then I could have it, fly over the thing, and it would just look like the bird just looping around, but in all reality it's just teleporting and then going back around. But that's it for your simple bird animation. As long as you did everything correct here, it should work fine. You can edit the animation to do whatever you want. Like, it doesn't just have to flap. Like, you can give the bird legs, and you can have it like sit on a tree and like flap its wings occasionally, or whatever, like look around, stuff like that. You can do that all within animation gizmos. But that's all we have for this now. You have any closing words?
Nope, I think that's about it.
Alright, as always, have fun building.